All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out for today's Sabbath lesson. It's actually a feast day for us this week, the beginning of the Feast of Dedication. Shalom to all the people online joining us, all our brothers and sisters. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Hopefully all of Israel is having a joyous time this week. We're going to be going over the history of why we celebrate this feast. So let's go through it here. So it says, Shalom Israel, thank you for gathering together to keep the Feast of Dedication. Today we'll review biblical text and the Zondervan Bible Dictionary to gain understanding on the significance of this Jewish custom. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his holy word. This looks like actually an older one. I'm going to just use this right here. We got the, y'all can follow this one. There's going to be a couple extra scriptures that's probably not on the list that I'm going to touch real quick just to get a little understanding. Has anybody heard of the Feast of Dedication? That's first time coming? You've heard of it?
No, first time. The first time.
Okay, first time. Boys, anybody remember what the feast is about? Okay.
I do.
Well, we're going to get some understanding. So before I most of the scriptures of this most of the scriptures come from the Apocrypha, which is not going to be in some of the Bibles today because it was taken out by the Puritans during that time period. The Protestant Church, they removed these scriptures from the Bible, and that's a big chunk of history that's missing. Basically, it goes over all of the Greek captivity and gives you better understanding for when you go into the New Testament of who we were talking about when we said there was neither Jew nor Greek. So it's real important that we get that book and make sure we're reading those scriptures, because that's going to piece together the Old and the New Testament for us. It bridges that gap. I want to start out in the book of Daniel, chapter 8. And Daniel had a vision. And he had a vision about the different empires that were going to be in control. And we're going to read this, and then we're going to go to the Apocrypha, and it's going to show us these things that he was talking about. It's going to go into detail about that time period. So let's go Daniel chapter 8. And we're going to start at verse 8. Let me make it big. There we go. So Daniel chapter 8, I'm going to start at verse 8. Alright. So it says, therefore let me start up a little bit more. I'm going to read verse 1 and 2, then I'm going to skip down to 8. So it says, in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. So Daniel had many visions. This is one of his visions that he had. If anybody, I would suggest anybody go read the book of Daniel. Some good stuff. It talks about a lot of good prophecies. Verse 2 says, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was in Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. So he basically just showing you that he's about to have a vision. So let's go down to verse 8. Verse 8 says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. So keep in mind this goat, it said it was a strong he-goat. And it said also that the great horn was broken. He had a horn on that goat, and it was broken. And it says, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds. Note that 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds. Note that 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what this is talking about. 4 notable ones, because we're going to speak about what that is, what Verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. Take note of that little horn also. It's going to be another person in this prophecy. Verse 10. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So keep these things in mind. He's saying that this person, this little horn, it waxed great, and that it cast down some of the hosts and the stars to the ground. So we're gonna find out who those hosts and those stars were. It says this horn magnified himself. What does it mean to magnify yourself?
Bigger, greater.
Right. You basically he said he magnified himself. He's saying I'm great. It's gonna be my way. I'm gonna magnify myself to be on top. I'm holding myself in high regard. And it said, by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground. It says it cast down the truth to the ground. Y'all know what the truth is. If we don't, we're going to go to it. It says, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So this is a vision. This is a little bit of the vision that he was saying. If you actually go down a little further, it'll tell you exactly who that goat was. Let me see. Yeah. So verse 21 says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So later on, it actually gave you that, telling you who that goat was in his vision. So he said that was the king of Grecia. He said the great horn that was between his eyes, that goat had a horn in his vision, the goat had a horn. He said that's the first king. We're going to find out who that first king was. It says verse 22, now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it. So that horn broke, or that first king fell, and 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in its power. So we're going to find out about all of that. This is a vision that Daniel had about the Greek time. But if we just go straight to the New Testament, we miss that whole history. Because it doesn't talk about that in the New Testament. It goes straight to the Roman Empire. The Greek Empire was before that. So that's why it's so important to read the Apocrypha. Because this is a big chunk of history that was just taken out. It's a reason why they did. Why our enemies took that out of the Bible. Because they was hiding a lot of history, knowing that if we didn't have that, you can't piece all those puzzles together. So let's go to... Before we go to the Apocrypha, I'm going to go to one more verse here. We'll go to the book of John. Book of John, chapter 10, and verse 22. Just to show you that this feast that we're keeping was mentioned in the Bible. So the New Testament, mind you, is after the Apocryphal times. And this was during the time of Christ. Here we go. Verse 22. It says, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And it says, Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. The Jews came round about him and said unto him, how long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. So this time period right now, showing you that the feast of dedication is during what season? Winter. During the winter. And Christ was around during this time. So they mentioned this for a reason. Our people were still keeping this feast. But is this being taught in the churches? No. So we need to ask these questions like, why is we not celebrating the Feast of Dedication or Tabernacles or Passover. All these different days that the Lord gave us, and this is our history, our heritage. So we need to be asking these questions of why we're not keeping these feasts. But we know coming into the truth now and starting to regain our knowledge that we need to keep them. And so we slowly coming back to our heritage. This is a joyous occasion. Because now you can claim something to be yours. This is your heritage. You can boldly say like, nah, we celebrate the Feast of Dedication. That's what we celebrate. This is our history. You can, after this lesson, you should be able to tell somebody where to go to see why we celebrate it and the importance of it. So let's go ahead and get to the Apocrypha now. We're going to go to 1 Maccabees and we're going to start in chapter 1. If anybody has questions, stop and ask. Shalom to the visitors online. I want to thank everybody for joining in just a moment. Alright. Let me get this out here.
Just swipe in left. Press back. Yeah, there you go. Oh crap. Oh god. Dude.
No, press the book. No, press that.
Okay, there we go.
Oh my god.
Don't use that.
Alright, let me go. How you go back?
Swipe
Alright,
out.
there we go. We good.
I don't know how to go back.
It's different how to use it.
Alright, so we're going to start in 1 Maccabees chapter 1. So remember back when we read in Daniel, I'm going to go back to it also just so we can remember what we're talking about here, because Daniel spoke about this time. So verse 1, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. So let's go back. He said the first over Greece. Daniel chapter 8. So here it goes. There we go. Verse 8. It says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong. The he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong. And then when we went down to verse, what was it, 21, it said the rough goat is the king of Grecia. The great horn that's between his eyes is the first king. So the first over Greece was who? Alexander. Y'all know who that Alexander is? I've heard his name before. Y'all ever heard of Alexander the Great?
Yes.
He took over a large realm. And let me see if we can pull that up real quick. Where do I want to put let me see. So this is all of his reign right here, this map. That's a lot of area right there that he took over. So we about to read,
I'm sorry, can you go back to
which one?
the map?
I'm sorry.
I just want to see the dates on it. If you
334 BC. Around 333 BC, 334 BC is when he conquered. He defeated, he said King Darius of the Persians and the Medes. So we read about them in the Old Testament. The Persian Mede captivity, you had the Babylonian captivity, Egyptian captivity. But like I said, the Greek captivity is the one that was missing. This is showing you that history. And all this land he took over. So let's go back to Maccabees. So it said he was the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations. So he was going through just knocking off kings. The spoils, what that is he's taking all of their precious things. The gold, he's just stripping them of everything. Basically, when you take over a nation, you take all their valuables. That's your spoils. It says, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So as he's taking over these places, he's feeling exalted. His heart is lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Anyone of the ladies remember what the tributaries are?
Workers.
What does it mean to become tributaries? That means they started having to pay him taxes. A tribute is a tax. So they became taxpayers to him pretty much. Just like we're taxpayers here in America. When you take over land, people pay you getting a chunk of everything. Everything coming back to you. So it said, and after these things he fell sick. So it's going through his time period pretty quick. It goes to verse 5, it says he got sick and perceived that he should die. So he got sick and he knew, he was like, man, I'm about to die. So he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So he had some honorable people up under him, well, the people that he called honorable, and said that came up with him from his youth. So this is people he knew. And he parted the kingdom among them. So he split the kingdom up between them. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. So these first 7 verses basically just showing you Alexander took over an area. He reigned 12 years, then he died. He parted his kingdom and then he died because he knew he was about to die. It says, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So these the ones that he split the kingdom up, he said they started putting crowns on themselves, and they and their sons after them also, and they did a lot of evil started to multiply. A lot of wicked things started going on under them. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So this king Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, that Epiphanes means God manifest on earth. So he basically was saying, I'm Antiochus, I'm God on earth. That's what. Is that a good thing to be saying something like that? No. Because we all know there's only one God. We know there's the Most High God. So this man was basically running around claiming he was God on earth. Wicked king. Verse 11. It says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So what you had here was some Israelites. It said wicked men out of Israel. So they was basically going around trying to convince other Israelites to make a covenant or an agreement with the heathen. The heathen is the other nations. They were saying, since we departed from them, we've had much sorrow. Man, it's too much stress and sorrow, man, on our own. We need to make a covenant with them. Maybe we can get some good stuff. They're trying to make a treaty with the enemies, because the heathen was the enemies. It said, so this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were forward herein, that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. So certain of the people went forth, they went to the king, and the king gave them basically a license to do ordinance of the heathen. Basically a license to sin. Because all the stuff that they ordinances were against our laws and against our customs. The things they did was not according to what we do, because we are separate people. Verse 14, it says, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. What is a place of exercise called? A gym, gymnasium. So they basically built it. So this is showing you that this wasn't one of our customs originally. This is something that the Greeks was doing, the heathens was doing. They started all of the sports and different stuff like that. They were the ones that was entertained by that type of stuff. It's because it said according to the customs of the heathen. Verse 15. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what did we do before the gyms? Did we work in the fields and?
We wasn't that type of people. We was holy people. We was different from everybody else. We was keeping the laws, making sure we was, originally we was just, governing everybody.
Well, what do we do as far as physical exercise? To keep ourselves healthy. Was it because we were out there working and
yeah, we did that. Yeah, we did a lot of things like that. What you're saying? Yeah, we were keeping the fields and doing other things. I'm pretty sure we did some type of exercise. I'd have to go back and do some research on that, but yeah, we just weren't. It said just the things that they were doing, like their gymnasiums back then. You see, when you see like the wrestling and stuff that comes from them, that all comes from them. Men in draws, basically, with nothing on, and just really they was doing it naked back then. So they were doing all type of profane and defiled things. And they saying we built a gym according to how they was doing things. So we started practicing the stuff they was practicing.
So it might not have even been about a health reason. It could have been just everything else.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So it says, verse 15. It said, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. So they uncircumcised themselves, or made themselves uncircumcised, meaning they weren't keeping the laws. This is said they forsook or forgot the holy covenant. They forgot that they was bound by the covenant to be keeping God's laws, and they went and joined the enemy and were sold to do mischief. Basically, they sold out. They sold to go do evil with the enemy. Verse 16. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. So he wanted to go reign over Egypt also. He extended his realm. It says, wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, and chariots, and elephants, and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him, and fled, and many were wounded to death. So Ptolemy at that time was one of the ones that was over that area. It says, thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. So again, he took over Egypt and took their spoils. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. So now he's coming to our people. It says, and he entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar, the candlestick of light, which is called what? What's the candlestick of light, Corin? The menorah, which is the 7 candlesticks. And it says, and the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the veils, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. Showing you what? We had a lot of gold in our temple. We had the best gold in our temple, man. That's why people love gold to this day. That's why you always see us gotta rock the gold chains, and we come from royalty, man. We've been doing this for a long time. So we had a lot of those precious things, and he went in. It said he probably went in there and took all of that stuff out, started polluting the temple. Verse 23. So it says he took also silver and gold and the precious vessels, Also, he took the hidden treasures which he found. So he found hidden things, and I mean, he went and searched out everything, just took all our stuff. It says, and when he had taken all away, he went in his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. So he just boasted. It said, therefore there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were. So if you're looking on the lesson, it's showing you that this is the fall of Israel right here. Right now, this is where he was basically defiling the temple and just making everything bad, making a sin, all that type of stuff. Verse 26. It says, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins, which is the young women and the young men, were made feeble. And the beauty of women was changed. Women was changed. Meaning they changed their appearance. They was in a time of mourning basically right now. The whole land was mourning because they was like, man, this man that came in and he just polluted the temple and took all our precious censers and veils and everything out of the temple, man. It just made it just horrible for us. He said, every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. And it says the land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. It was confused, like, what's going on?
Someone has a question.
I'm sorry.
When they mourned, didn't they wear like sackcloth?
Yes. That was one of the ways we would show mourning, is they would rip the clothes up, put on their old garments instead of their precious holy garments, and they would be mourning and fasting and praying to the Lord, asking them for deliverance, asking them to save them out of this. So, where we at? 29. It says, and after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute. So he sent his man to get them taxes unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. So he sent his head person, his head collector. And the verse 30 says, he spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. Showing you that these type of people that we was dealing with, yeah, they speak nice words to you, just like some of the enemies do today. An enemy ain't gonna always come up to you and just start talking down to you or just come at you wrong like that. It's they gonna sometimes come to you with peaceable words, but they doing it in a deceitful way. They trying to trick you. They trying to build your or get your trust just to basically backstab you. Good job, girl. So it says, for when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel. So that's what he did. He went in there, spoke peaceable words. They were like, okay, he's credible. And then he basically fell on the city, took it over. He smote people, killed people, destroyed much people of Israel. Our enemies do that to us to this day, y'all. They do things, they set things up in our neighborhoods. They come to us with these, with certain things that sound good. And all the while, what it's doing is destroying our communities, destroying our people. But we don't see it sometimes. We're so blind and so gullible that, we so destroyed as a people that we fall for it. So it says in verse 31, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. So y'all remember why they had to have servants, right? So they would take the women and the children. You see, they didn't say they took the men, right? They was trying to kill the men. Because the man is what? He's the head. He's stronger, right? If you take the head out, everything else gonna fall. So it says verse 33, they builded the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers and made it a strong hold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. So the city of David was our city, Jerusalem. So it says they stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. So they were just doing all type of wickedness and murder and killing our people. insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. So, of course, naturally, when stuff like this is going on, we got people who like, man, we gotta get up out of here. So we had people that fled. And our people got up out of there. Not everybody, of course, but a lot of us did flee. It said, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. It says, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. So we couldn't enjoy nothing, man. We couldn't enjoy our feasts, our Sabbaths. It was basically, it was a taunt to us because the strangers basically took hold of that city. So real quick, I want to go back to Daniel, and I want to go to chapter 11 to show y'all something. Let's see. Daniel chapter 11. So mark down Daniel chapter 11. We're going to start at verse 31, I believe it is. I think this is where I want to go. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is where I want to be. So Daniel chapter 11 verse 31. It says, so this is basically an extension of that dream and vision that he had in chapter 8. It says, an arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. So basically what I want right now is that first part saying that they polluted the sanctuary. We're reading about that right now in Maccabees, how they went in and they're polluting the sanctuary. They're basically destroying our land and taking over and moving us out. Let me go back to Maccabees. We're going to go back to that chapter again and that verse just to reiterate some things. Where we at? Verse 40. So it says, as had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. So basically talking about our land. At one point it was a glorious land and our people had glory there. Now it's just dishonor. The dishonor had increased. And our excellency was turned into mourning. Happy days was turned into bad days. All because of them coming in and taking over. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. So he was saying all should be one people, meaning what? All should be under one accord. Ain't gonna be no you celebrate this, you celebrate that. Y'all gonna be doing what I tell y'all to do. Y'all gonna follow my laws. Y'all ain't following y'all's God laws. It said, and everyone should leave his laws. It said it right there. It says, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So it wasn't just Israel that was there. It was other nations also. It said all of the other nations, because anybody outside of the nation of Israel was considered a heathen in the Bible. So it's basically saying that all of these other nations agreed. They were like, cool, we'll do it. It said, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So yeah, we even had some of our people too. Just like that, it's just like that today. We got some of our people that agree to do what the heathen do. They would rather, a lot of them would rather keep their laws than keep the laws of God. It's too hard for them in their mind to keep the laws of God. So this is why we got to try to build our people up into the spirit and say, look, this is your history. This is your background, your forefathers. These are our forefathers, our blood descendants. I mean, we're descendants of these people. So it said, we had some of our people that consented and profaned the Sabbath and sacrificed unto idols. Verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, just like we do today. They got our people profaning the Sabbath. How do they guys profaning the Sabbath now?
They have cells and
Thank you. That's one of the biggest ones. Our people is out when Saturday come. Where we at? At the mall. We buying up everything, not knowing that on the Sabbath we're supposed to be what? Resting. No buying or selling. No cooking. We supposed to be keeping this day holy. This is a day to give to the Most High.
Yeah, and they say that the Sabbath is on Sunday.
Right. They've changed the Sabbath and said it's Sunday. And even Sunday, to be honest with you, they don't even keep Sunday holy. Because Sunday, when people go to church, what they go do afterwards? They go eat, they go buy stuff, they hit the malls too. So they really still not keeping the Sabbath on Sunday either.
And all the Jordans come out on Saturday.
Yep, all the Jordans come out on Saturday. Where our people at? Lined up at the mall to get them.
4 in the morning.
Friday. First of all, the Sabbath starts Friday evening. What happens Friday evening?
Club.
Clubs is packed. It's going down. People done got their check. They done got their check. Right. Let's keep it real. We know what our people doing. We get that check and we get in the club. We getting that fresh fit. We just went to the mall, bought a fresh fit, got a haircut. Ladies got that nice dress, some pumps. They hitting the club. So this is ways that we've been profaning the Sabbath all these years, not unknowingly. You know what I mean? Because we've been in ignorance. We've been destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So verse 46, it says, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. So they set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. So instead of them sacrificing, sacrificing the holy animals, what was they sacrificing? Like lambs and goats and doves and stuff like that. They started sacrificing the pig. The pig is an unclean animal. That's a slap in God's face. You sacrificing swine unto him. He's like, what? That's why it's amazing to me that we can have people celebrating Thanksgiving and got this ham, these holiday hams and stuff like that, and be praying over it. You cannot pray over an unclean animal. That don't make sense. But I know it's a lot of people that just don't know that. So this is why we're here. We're here to tell you that this is wrong. We got to quit doing it. Everybody in this room did it at one point. Thought we was righteous doing it.
With our pants on.
Yes. And so in Romans it talks about that. It tells us how our people, we got a zeal for God. We have a great zeal for the Most High. But it's not according to knowledge. It's not according to the Bible. We try to make up our own ways to serve Him instead of just going by the book. So it says, we set up all these things, these unclean beasts. It says that they should also leave their children uncircumcised. So children coming in, they was basically saying, nah, you don't circumcise them. That's another one of our covenants. The boys are supposed to be circumcised after 8 days.
Wait, why is it important to be
Circumcised?
Yeah.
That was a covenant that the Most High made with Abraham in the beginning. You have to go back and read that in Genesis. Go read. That was a sign between our children and Him, and it's a spiritual meaning behind it too, because when you're circumcising the word, it means you're circumcising all that bad from your life. Circumcision means you're cutting something. So what you're spiritually cutting away is all the filth, all the stuff that we've been learning. You cutting all that away, and you're becoming a circumcised person. Pretty much, your mind is circumcised. You keep the laws.
And isn't physically it's healthier because you're cutting out
Right.
bad.
You're cutting out that bad skin and all that. So yeah.
That can have diseases.
Exactly.
Kind of bacteria.
So the Lord, He looked out for us all the way. It's a lot of things we don't even understand why we doing it, and He's doing it for a reason, like the dress code and stuff like that. There's health reasons for that. The reason why He don't want women to wear pants and stuff like that. There's health reasons for that. There's health reasons why He don't want you to put certain chemicals in your hair and stuff like that, because you're destroying the natural beauty of the hair that you got. So it's a lot of things that if we just knew the backstory of it, we would be like, man. But see, us, we gotta ask too many questions. Well, why this? Why that? Instead of just doing what the Most High. He's our heavenly Father. Do you ask when you was a child? Did you ask your father why? You just did it. You didn't ask no questions.
No wonder why we don't have no ages.
Exactly. So it says, They left the children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. To the end, this was the key, that they might forget the law and change all their ordinances. So they've accomplished that to this point now. When we talk about today's time, our people have forgotten the law. Basically, when you take all your records and your heritage, your culture, your language, everything from you, and make you become a Greek or become an American or become whoever's ruling at that time, they beat the laws out of you till you forgot them over generation and generation and generation. Now, ask a person, tell them they're Israelite, they look at you crazy. They like an Israelite. What? They don't know what you talking about. They ain't never heard of the tribes of Israel, Judah, Benjamin, Levi. They don't know nothing about that. So that was the whole goal. Verse 50, it said, and whosoever would not do according to the commandments of the king, he said he should die. So this also is a time, a word that y'all should write down and look up is Hellen or Hellenist. This is when the Hellenist period came about. The Hellenists were Greek-speaking Jews. So basically, this is when you started taking on the customs of the people you were serving, your oppressor. Just like today, we've been Hellenized in America. We do American. Our people are into the American customs, the Christmas, Thanksgivings, and everything else that they Sunday worship, all of that. So when you get to the New Testament, this is showing you who these people are in the New Testament. It's giving you more understanding. Now you understand why they said it was neither Jew nor Greek. Because he was saying basically whether you was a Jew and knew you was a Jew and was in the land, or whether you was scattered to some other place, you still an Israelite. So he said also, verse 51, in the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor, or comfort, or safety. So that's why we was fleeing. Let me see if I need to read the rest of this. Let's skip down to verse 56. It says, and when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. Showing you that they were trying to do what? Trying to get rid of our Bibles. Because this is all the Bible, all it is a history book. It's just our records. It's giving you examples of the kings and everybody else before us that was living. Showing you what they was doing, how they was living, how they was keeping the law, how we fell off from keeping the law. It's giving you the whole breakdown of our people and our history. Because we wrote everything down. So their goal was to try to do what? Get rid of those books, just like they do today. It's some books that you ain't gonna be able to find, or if you do find it, you have to pay big money to get it. Because they took our books and they try to now mark up the prices to where you can't get these books that's gonna give you real information, the true history about people, showing you when we was ruling. They're not gonna give you that. They just gonna give you only back to slavery times. That's about as far back that they're gonna let you go. So it says, and whosoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. So he was putting our people to death just for reading the laws, just for trying to keep the laws. So it said, thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. So let's go down a little further. Look at some of the evils they did. It said, verse 60, it says, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women. So they put to death our women that had caused their children to be circumcised. Women that was like, man, I got to get my child circumcised because that's the law. It was killing them women. Guess what else they was doing? It said they hanged the infants about their necks, rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them. So they was killing our children, our babies. This is horrible things that was happening to our people. We got to realize that the heathens, the other nations were doing this to us. It said, howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. So some of us were strong with it. We were like, man, I don't care what they talking about. We're not going to eat what they say eat. We're not going to do what they say do. They was willing to die for the cause. Verse 63 says it. It says, wherefore they would rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was great wrath upon Israel. So this whole chapter 1 just showed you the fall of our people and how they came through. King Antiochus came through and just wrecked shop on all of us. But we did have a remnant of people, just like we do today, that's going to stand up for these laws and going to say, nah, no, enough is enough, man. We're not going to be doing what y'all say do. We serve the Most High. That's what we serve. We don't serve man. And we willing to die for this. So let's go to chapter 2. So this is going to be talking about the restoration of Israel. So let's start at verse 1. It says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John. Mattathias also is Matthew. It says, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jeriel, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan called Cadus, Simon called Thassi, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Abiram, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphus.
Why did they have 2 names? Was it like their nickname?
The surname was like a nickname, because Maccabeus means the hammer. So we would have to look up what these other names mean.
Okay.
But yeah, Judas the hammer. That was because that's what we're gonna be talking about mainly, is Judas. But all of them was some righteous brothers. They come from a righteous line. Mattathias was. We gonna see how real they was.
So is that where our nicknames came from?
Right. That's we've been these nicknames. So it said, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, meaning Mattathias, when he started seeing all these things happening, he said, woe is me. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. So he like, man, why I gotta see all this? He said, her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. This is still going on to this day, y'all. When we reading this, we can say these things today. Man, look at our people. Look at all the craziness that's going on with our people right now. So it's showing you that we should be able to connect with the Bible. We seeing this and we're saying, man, this is us. This is our people. He said, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Telling you what, all nations ain't no nation exempt from them doing us like this. It ain't just the white man. It's the Asian, the Koreans, the Arab man. The Arabs had us in slavery before the white man. So we got to look into these things. We got to learn history and see. He said, what nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten to her spoils? They set up shop in our neighborhoods. Takes full advantage of us. We spend all this money, and then guess what? It go back to them. Go back to their countries. So it says, all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bondslave. So we become slaves. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste. And the Gentiles have profaned it. Meaning the Gentiles is another word for heathen, or another word for the other nations. Mind you, in the New Testament, we became Gentiles. Meaning we started taking on their customs. So we started acting like Gentiles. Therefore, we were called in the New Testament Gentiles also. So that's where the confusion comes from in the Bible, is when you see Gentiles, everybody automatically think they talking about the other nations. Sometimes it was talking about Israel, but just the Israelites who started adopting these customs. The Hellenists, what I was telling y'all about. It says, to what end therefore shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons ripped up the clothes, and put on sackcloth, and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. So it says the king's officers came in and tried to compel the people to revolt and to make sacrifice unto the idols.
Wait, why did they wear sackcloth?
Because there was a time of mourning. That was a way to show that they were in mourning. It's like they not. It's like them just putting on their worst garments and just It's a way for them to humble themselves. You know what I'm saying? So verse 16 it says, and when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise. He said, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Mind you, in chapter 1, we heard how did they come to us? They would come to us with peaceable words, right? Yep. Here he goes speaking these peaceable words. He said, look, you're a ruler, Mattathias. You're an honorable and great man in this city, Mattathias. You're strengthened with sons and brethren. He said, now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain in Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. So he said, hey, Mattathias, man, you giving him all this dap. He's like, man, you this, you that, you a great man, you honorable. He said, come first. You come first out of everybody and come do the sacrifice just like the heathens. He said, and if you do that, basically, why would he be telling him to come first? But why Mattathias?
Because he's
the head.
Why didn't he ask just some random other person?
He's a king.
He wasn't really the king, but Mattathias was a great man in Israel. He was a wise man, one of the elders, somebody that you would just look up to. It would be like, what's an example? It's like one of our so-called leaders today, our black leaders, that's probably not really a leader, but somebody that has a big influence, and saying, hey, if you come and start doing all of this, everybody else gonna follow you because they love you. That's like if they would have came to Malcolm X and said, hey, Malcolm X, we know you lead the people, so why don't you come up here and start doing all this foolery? Because then if you do it, then everybody's gonna do it. That's what they were trying to do. They always do that. They try to get the most influential person to do these crazy things and sin because they know our people, when we look at him, we're going to say, well, he's the leader. If he do it, I can do it too. But let's see what Mattathias did. Because he said, look, if you do it, we're going to put you in the number of the king's friend. We're going to set you up nice. All your children, we're going to get y'all silver and gold, many rewards, just like they do today with these people. So when you see the Jay-Z's and all these brothers, the LeBrons and all of them that's at the top, a lot of them have taken this basically this agreement with the heathen. And they said, all right, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. Because I want that silver and gold. We trust in those things more than saying, you know what, no, I'd rather just be in the number with my people than I'll suffer with my people because I'm not going to do this wickedness, man. Y'all tripping. But let's see what Mattathias says. Mattathias in verse 19 said, he answered and spake with a loud voice. He said, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. He said, God forbid that we should forsake the laws and the ordinances. So he was like, no. He was like, you think he told him, hell no, I'm not doing that. He was like, you crazy. I'm not going against the religion of my fathers. He said, man, me, my son, my brethren, we going to do the commandments. And that's how we have to be. We got to be leaders in our communities and say, look, man, enough is enough. We going to keep the commandments. Who going to follow me? Because we about to get it right. So this is a true leader. He said, we will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left. We don't care what you offering us. You can take that silver and gold back to where you got it. We don't need none of that. He said, now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all the sacrifice on the altar, which was at Moses, according to the king's commandment. So as he was saying this, here comes some crazy Israelite walking up about to sacrifice on the altar. What you think he was about to sacrifice?
A pig.
Exactly. He was sacrificing some unclean thing. Verse 23. He said, now when he had verse 24. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So he killed this man. This was his brother. This is how serious he took the commandments. He was like, look, he was in the middle of a very like powerful speech. And while he's saying this, here comes some cool Israelite with a pig back. I'm gonna go ahead and do the sacrifice like they said do, bro. I don't know what you talking about. He just went right past him, and he saw that, and it made him so mad while he was saying this that he went and killed that man. So hey man, sometimes the Lord will stir up a brother, man, to take out a wicked Israelite, man, because that brother wasn't no good to us. If you sit up there about to sacrifice to the heathens and sacrifice to their idols, man, you can get took out at any time, man. That's why the Lord be lucky and be praying to God and thanking Him that He gave us grace, because man, we done been on that side when we was serving the other nations and willingly doing that stuff. So he said he slew him upon the altar. He said also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time. And the altar he pulled down. So he killed that king's commissioner too. Killed him. He said, and he pulled down the altar, pulled down that altar that they was sacrificing on. He was pissed. This man had a real zeal for God. So he said, thus he dealt zealously for the law of God, like as Phoenice did unto Zimri, the son of Salom. I guess we would have to go into the history of that at a later time. So it says, Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he said basically, look, anybody want to keep the laws, y'all come follow me, but we about to get popping. We're not about to do this wicked stuff. So he said, he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. So they fled. They weren't about to keep these wicked laws, wicked commandments that this king was trying to make them do. So he said, then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Now when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down in the secret places in the wilderness, so they started to find out that Mattathias and these people that he took with him wasn't keeping the king's commandments, and that they had gone off to the secret place in the wilderness. It said they pursued after them, a great number, having overtaken them. They camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. So they thought that. So they really was trying to get us, because they know on the Sabbath we doing what? We resting. They coming against us and making war against us on the Sabbath. So they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So they still trying to get them to forsake the laws. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us die in all our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. So they really weren't even fighting back at this point. Said they was like, forget it, just let us die, and knowing that we being put to death wrongfully. They was willing to die. It says, so they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives, children, and cattle to the number of 1,000 people. So he had 1,000 people die. So obviously he had a whole bunch of other people with him. So it says, now when Mattathias and his friends understood thereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us about the earth. They said, man, he's like, man, if we don't do nothing, they just gonna kill us all off. It's just like we just gonna be gone. So he said, at that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against them. So now they said, look, enough's enough. We ain't gonna just let them come on the Sabbath and kill them. We gonna fight back now. He said, neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also, all they that fled from persecution joined themselves unto them and were a stay unto them. So it says they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. So still had a little group that fled off to the heathen to be comforted there. They didn't want to. Some of those sinful men they was talking about fled out of there. So it said Mattathias and his friends went round about. They pulled down altars. It says, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. Let me see, what they talking about that in this one? So right here, I'm sorry. So in Daniel chapter 11, where it says right here in verse 32, it says, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. So this is what it was talking about. Mattathias and his righteous men with him, those exploits that they did, this was some of the things they was doing. They were going around circumcising kids that wasn't circumcised. And they was like, you ain't circumcised? You circumcised now? Like, they making sure, like, they was making sure everybody was righteous, man. They was going around doing, they was keeping it real. Like, no, ain't nobody gonna be over here not keeping no laws, man. So that was some of the things they was doing. They was like, forget this, man. We gonna keep it all the way 100 for the Most High. So it says they did that valiantly. It says they pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands. So they prospered doing this thing because they were doing this for the Lord. If this was wrong, the Lord would have killed them long time ago. But he said they worked prospered. It says, so they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. So he's about to die. He said, therefore, my sons, be zealous for the law. Give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. If you go back and look through all the righteous men and kings, when they were about to die, these are the things they will be telling to their sons to pass down. They'll be saying, hey, be zealous for the law. Keep the laws. Don't forsake the law of the covenant that you've been given to you from your forefathers. These are the things we need to be telling our kids as we get older, knowing that your time is coming soon. You got to be telling them, hey, keep these laws. Stay in the Bible. Don't let nobody shake you from this. I don't care who it is. So he said, call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall you receive great honor in an everlasting name. Because a good name means a lot. So when he says call to remembrance the acts that our fathers did, how do we call to remembrance these things? By going and reading the Bible, having studies, keeping the Sabbath day. As you're reading the Bible, you're seeing these examples. You're hearing about them over and over and over again the way you don't forget them. Because that's what America does for their people. They make sure you remember 9/11 every year. They're going to make sure you remember that day. They're going to make sure you remember all their important days and make you read their history books and test on all of that in school. So this is what we got to do on our time. We got to go over the acts of our fathers.
Pearl Harbor was last weekend. Nobody even cares.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to make sure they bring a lot of their history up. So why is it so bad for us to know our history? Because that's the thing today. People get mad at you for trying to keep the laws. So he said, was not Abraham found faithful in temptation and was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandments and was made Lord of Egypt. Y'all remember that? Joseph was what? Second in command. Egypt, the king of Egypt, they was running it at that time. But see, it shows you that the Lord will even spare you in your captivity. You keeping the laws, he may put you in a high position just for you to help your people out. Because that's what Joseph did. It says, for these our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Jesus, fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. He's given us different examples. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. He's running all this down to his sons. He's basically saying, look, y'all remember these stories we went over? You see these men had these good names? You need to be like them. Remember these men. Let's go down a little bit further. Verse 60, it says, Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. Y'all heard about that one, right? And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. So hey, when you going around keeping the laws, you eating the right foods, you keeping the Sabbath, you keeping the feast days. It says don't be fearing the words of a sinful man, because you're going to have sinful people coming up to you telling you you're doing things wrong. They're going to be looking at you crazy, but trying to taunt you or mock you for you doing what you doing. It says, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Don't worry, at the end of the day, you're going to see who's going to get the last laugh. It says, today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into dust, and his thought has come to nothing. Wherefore, my sons, be valiant and show yourselves men in behalf of the law. So how do you show yourself to be a man?
Follow the laws.
Follow the laws. So when America sometimes calls to be a man, it's not what the Bible calls. Today, America is saying for you to be a man, you need to be having many different women. You need to have as much money as you can possibly have. You need to be driving the best car with 20s on it, whatever it is, whatever we think that tells us we a man today. He's saying according to this, according to the Bible, when you show yourself a man is when you regard the law and you keeping the laws. For by it shall ye obtain glory, by keeping the laws. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. So he's saying Simon's a smart man. He's one that goes to for advice. Go to him. It says, go to him always. He shall be a father unto you. So he's giving the characteristics of his sons, the traits that they have. 66 says, as Judas Maccabeus being what? Hammer. It says, he hath been mighty and strong. This is why they call him the hammer. He was mighty and strong even from his youth up. He was always the strong one of the sons. It said, let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people. So he was going to be the leader of the army. He was like, hey, y'all follow Judas when it comes to that army stuff. He gonna hold it down. It said, take also unto you all those that observe the law and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen. So pay them back and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed them and was gathered to his fathers. Says he died in the 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his father in Moab, and all Israel made great lamentation for him. So showing you our custom again, when we died, we buried our men.
He was 146 years old?
Yeah. It says he died, no, it says he died in the 146th year. That was just showing the year that he was in. I'm not exactly sure how old, I have to go back and look exactly how old he was. But his sons did bury him next to his father, in the grave next to his father. Yeah, I think the time span started going down after. Abraham and them was living long back in the day. But our lifespan is slowly going away. We don't even live barely 60, 70 years now. So basically this chapter 2 was just showing you. Mattathias was introducing you to Mattathias and his son, saying, hey, they weren't about to be doing none of this wickedness. They was going to fight for the laws of the Most High. So let's go to chapter 3. We almost done. And then, even after we do these few chapters, I will go back and also read all of the 1st and 2nd Maccabees to get the full history of what went on during this time. Because there's a lot of good information in there. So it says the hammer takes over. So just the time of Judas. So chapter 3. So it says, then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, or the hammer, he rose up in his stead. And all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. They was happy to fight this fight, because they knew it was for a righteous cause. It says, so he gathered his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girded his warlike harness about him, and made battles, protecting the host with his sword. In his axe he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burned up those that vexed his people. So he was pursuing the wicked. This was a battle. He was going around like anybody that wasn't keeping law, he was getting rid of, chopping them up. Anybody that was trying to vex the people or put stress on our people or trying to hurt us in any way, he was taking them out. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. He was saved. He was like a savior to his people at this time. And he was prospering doing it. Most High was with this man and his family.
It was important. Going back. See when you're mad at me.
So it says,
Excuse me?
alright, we're gonna move on.
It was one moment.
Yes.
So it says, he grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Okay.
But you do that, that's not even fun.
Okay. Because you've been talking all the time. Let's go.
Really, you gonna work the whole thing?
So it says he grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them and turning away wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish.
Her sister's bringing the baby home. She's still with
So he went through. He destroyed. Went through the cities of Judah, destroying ungodly out of them and turning away the wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish. So then it says, Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together and a great host out of Samaria to fight against Israel. So this man, a Gentile heathen, came and tried to fight against us. It says, which thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him, and he smote him and slew him. So he killed this man. Many also fell down slain, but the rest fled. Wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius sword also, and therewith he fought all his life long. So just like they took our spoils, he took their spoils. It says, now when Saran, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with him to war, he said, I will give me a name and honor in the kingdom. This man was trying to make a name for himself. Why?
So they can run
Or how is he trying to make a name for himself? By doing what?
killing everybody.
No, this Saran, the prince of the army of Syria, he heard about Judas. He heard about how he was going around killing people, killing different men, going up against him. So what did he say? He said, I'm going to make me a great name by trying to go against him and kill him. He said, for I will go fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment.
To be the best, you gotta be the best.
Right. So exactly. If you see it in rap today, you got rappers that come up and they say, man, I'm gonna start beef with one of the biggest rappers in the game just so I can try to make a name for myself.
They really do be like
And that's what this man was doing when it comes to Judas. He said, if I take him out, everybody gonna be scared of me. So it says he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him and to be avenged of the children of Israel. And when he came near to the going up of Betharon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company. For when they saw the host coming to meet him, they said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? So the people that was with him was kind of questioning. They was like, man, how we gonna go up against him? But he said he had a small company with him. Unto whom Judas answered, his answer was, it is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few. And with the Most High God of heaven, it is all one, to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. He said it don't matter if they great or small. To the Lord, it ain't nothing but one person to him. He's going to just take them out. So Judas he wasn't scared, man. He was bold as a lion. He didn't care. It said, for the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of the host, but strength coming from heaven. This also shows you in our walk. We few when it comes to the worldwide spectrum. Israel is but a few, the people that's keeping the commandments. It's only a remnant of us keeping them. So he's showing you right here also is saying, victory, I'm sorry, where was that? victory of a battle standing out in the most. It don't matter who got the biggest number. It's matter who keeping the law. That's what it boils down to. He said, strength coming from heaven. They come against us in much pride and iniquity do destroy us, and our wives and children and to spoil us. He said, but we fight for our lives and our laws. Wherefore the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be ye not afraid of them. So he's trying to lift up their spirits with his army. He's saying, look, y'all don't be scared. Y'all don't be nervous. We got the Most High on our side. Just keep the commandments. We gonna take them out. Don't worry. He said, now as soon as he had left off speaking, he leaped suddenly upon them, and so Saran and his host was overthrown before him. It said, and they pursued them from the going down of Bethroar to the plain, where they slain about 800 men of them, and the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. So hey, he the one that got it popping. He didn't wait on nobody. He said, while he was left off speaking, he leaped suddenly on them and started to overthrow him and the army, surrounding his army. So they pursued him and killed about 800 men, and some of them fled out. It said, then began the fear of Judas and his brethren and an exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them. So they had everybody nervous, man. They was like, whew, this boy Judas ain't no game, man. That's like, right now, it's like the Golden State Warriors coming to town. They like, man, they like, man, they come, the boys taking out everybody right now, man. It's like they had a what they call them, a super team. Judas and his super team was coming to town, man. Wasn't nobody trying to see them there. The nations round about was nervous. They was like, we gotta find a way to take them out, man. So he said, inasmuch as his fame came unto the king, and all the nations talked of the battle of Judas. Now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. So Antiochus still around. He was mad after he heard this. He said, wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. Remember, he had a big realm. We saw that map. So he's trying to gather up all these people to try to take out Israel and Judas and his brethren. It says he opened all his treasure and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them. So he was like, hey, he paid them up for a year. He's like, look, whenever I need y'all gonna be on call. Just like the army today, right? When it's time to go to war, they gonna call you and say, hey, let's go. I'm paying you. You got to come home. So, nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in the country was small, so he's saying the money was starting to get low, and his taxes was small that he was receiving. He said because of the dissension and plague, so that was causing the money to go. It said, which he had brought upon the land and taken away the laws which had been of old time. So he don't even realize his own doing is the reason why the money starts flowing. It said he brought this upon the land by taking away the laws which had been of old time. Because things prosper when when Israel's keeping the laws and stuff, things prosper. That's why the world is in chaos right now, because we out of order. Once we get back in order and start doing things right, then the world gonna start everything happens right. The earth yields its fruits and things more. You know, they just them running the earth right now, they destroying everything, man. They are killing the land, tearing it up. They don't let the land rest at all. They don't get enough. They greedy. He said, so he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor have such gifts to give so liberally or freely as he did before. For he had abounded above the kings that were before him. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money. So he was going to go over to the Persian area and try to get taxes from them and gather much money. America does that today. If they run out of money, they go into other lands, going to take their money. I need some of y'all money, man. It says, so he left Lysias, a nobleman, and one of the blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. So he left basically this man in charge while he was going into this other to going to Persia. So he said, moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces, and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem. Which is basically, he just left him in charge. He's saying, do as I would have done. You're going to make the call, but you're going to do it according to how I would have done it. To wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and to root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away their memorial from that place. And that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. So he was going to divide up the land. They wanted to take it over, divide up the land. It says, so the king took the half of the forces that remained and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year. And having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Dominus, Nicanor, and Gorgias, mighty men of the king's friends. We remember Nicanor. We'll go into that later on. It's going to be another feast coming up when we're going to be talking about Nicanor. Man was wicked too. So it said, and with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it as the king commanded. So they went forth with all their power, came and pitched in Amias in the plain country. Let's see how far it can go in the merchant. So let me go to 42. It says, now when Judas and his brethren saw the miseries that were multiplied, and the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them. So they said one to another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people, and let us fight for our people in the sanctuary. So being valiant men, being zealous for the Lord. They said, man, let us restore the decayed fortune. I remember back in the days when we used to have certain groups that was trying to do that. Black Panthers and all of that. You know, we had black groups like that that was trying to build up our people. So they was trying, but they just wasn't doing it according to the Bible. But still, in all, they had a zeal for their people to where they wanted to. They had zeal for their people too, just back in the day. But nowadays, we don't have these types of people. We're starting to build back up now with Israel, build up in righteousness. But for a long time, we've been without leaders like this. So it said, then was the congregation gathered together that they might be ready for battle and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. Let me see. So it says, Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and the aliens kept the stronghold. Who are the aliens?
The heathens.
Right. Y'all know how when somebody come over here to America that's not from here, it's a foreigner, they call them aliens. That's where it comes from. So it said the heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. There wasn't no music playing, because it was a time of mourning. But it's funny, like some of our people, we rejoice in the slum. We rejoice being on the bottom. We playing the harp. And the harp could be anything. Like we out here clubbing and having a good time, like everything is all good. But he's saying in this time when all this was going on, the harp ceased. People wasn't doing that. They put all that stuff aside and they was like in mourning, praying, trying to ask for mercy from the Most High. That's what we need to be doing today. Instead of just acting like ain't nothing happening. Verse 46. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspah over against Jerusalem. For Maspah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes. And they laid open the book of the law. What's the book of the law? The Bible. Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. What does that tell you right there? It says the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their images. Oh. So now,
They started dressing like that.
Well, no. It said when they started opening up their book, remember they took our books, right? They destroyed some of them, but then also what they did with some of them was what? They sought to paint the likeness. They whitewashed everything.
Oh.
They made Jesus white, they made all the disciples white, they made everybody white in the Bible. But we know that they was a people of color. This is in history, that's just what they do. Once they take over something, they repainted everything. What's they call it? The Renaissance era. That's what they did.
Is that where that all started?
This is
Back then?
way back then they was doing that. So yeah, that's because, and this is showing you also we had images in our books at that time, so we could actually look through the books and see our people was people of color. Because we know we're visual people. That's just how we are. We gotta see things. For us to believe it, we gotta see it. So back then we would read it and we could actually look at the book and then see the pictures. Like we'll have a picture of John the Baptist or somebody, or whoever it was at that time, of Moses and all of them. We had those pictures.
No wonder we don't remember. They whitewashed everything.
They destroyed everything, and a lot of the books that still do, because we painted these images on when we ran. I think we was ruling in Europe at this time, what they call the Dark Ages. We had pictures all on our stuff of the apostles and Christ and all that, and they painted them black. But they took all of that stuff, and now it's hit. It's in some books, but some of the books you have to pay big money to get it. Only a few people die.
She's gonna start. I'm on my way back to Korea. I'll be back in the morning. They're gonna do another MRI.
She gonna spend the night?
She gonna spend some as long as she can. We get another MRI and that's some stuff on it. We gotta see how much that's going to. Listen.
So I'm sorry, y'all. So it says they fasted that day, they put on sackcloth, they cast ashes upon their heads, on their clothes. They opened the book of the law. It said they brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. They cried with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these, and whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O God, be our help? Then sounded with they the trumpets and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people. So they praying to God. They fasted. They're trying to build their strength up. They're trying to get right. They know the Lord gonna have to help them with this battle because they couldn't do this alone. So 58, Judas said, arm yourselves, be valiant men, see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us in our sanctuary. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people in our sanctuary. Y'all ever heard that saying, it's better to die on our feet than live on our knees? That's what he's saying. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do. He said, whatever the will that the Father is going to happen, however you think it's supposed to happen, Lord, it's happen that way. If we got to die for it, we got to die for it. If we come out on the other side, we're going to come out on the other side. But it's going to be up to the Most High to guide us in that. So, we're not going to read all of chapter 4. We're just going to read a few verses on that one. I'm showing you when the feast basically came about. So they basically went to battle with them. They took them out and won, and then they were able to build the temple back up. They basically rededicated the temple back to being holy. They took out all of the idols and the wicked altars and all that, and they rebuilt it back up. In a spiritual sense, what we're doing is building up Israel back up. So we're going to start in chapter 4. We're going to start at verse 52. So it says, now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning. It says, and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. It said, look, at what time and what day had the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated with songs and siblings and harps and cymbals. So the way the Most High worked was, on the day that they defiled it, he came back and rededicated it on that same day. It said, then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication, the feast of dedication, of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. So this is why we're celebrating this day. It was because we were delivered from the enemy. He delivered us. We went into battle with them and we won the battle. Just like America, when the whole Thanksgiving celebration, does anybody know the real reason why Thanksgiving came about?
Yes, it's because
Right here, no.
Let people go first.
it's because that we won we declared our independence from Great Britain.
Well, we talk. That's I think.
I got it.
What you got?
It's when the Indians killed Britain.
The Indians.
Or the Native Americans.
Okay. Y'all, you closer, but you
The
off.
Pilgrims killed the Indians.
It's the same thing.
No,
but
it's not the same thing.
How is it
The
not the
Indians
same
are our
thing,
people.
dummy?
The natives are our people.
They have the same skin, man.
All right, so look, basically, the Pilgrims or
The sick people. The
yes, the
Indians.
Spaniards it was Spaniards, wasn't it?
Yes.
They came over and act like they was gonna be making peace with the natives here, which was our people. These were Israelites that ended up coming to this side of the world, and they killed them off. They put diseases on them.
Yeah.
They killed them. They killed their cattle and everything that they had to live on. They killed them off that way. So and then they declared and took over the land and declared it a holiday. That's what people do. That's what people of other nations do. When they celebrating something, when you celebrating Thanksgiving, you're basically celebrating the victory over for them having a victory over your people. That's like them killing your mama, and then you celebrating with them 10 years later. This is the day they killed my mama. Now I'm gonna have a celebration, but you calling it something else at this point. That's just what you're doing. You celebrating the destruction of your own people.
They had a feast of the Pilgrims killing the Indians, and then now we eat, and on that day we're supposed to be thankful that they
Exactly.
our people.
And a lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, the Pilgrims sat down with the Indians, they had a meal, and it was all good. Like nothing bad happened. No, that's not the real history. Man. That's not how it went down.
Now these years we've just been eating, they were killing the people.
So now we're looking at a feast of ours where we actually won. It says we were delivered. It says they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, with shields, the gates and the chambers they renewed. They hanged doors upon them. So they built the temple back up.
Where did you read that at? With
Verse 57. So they did all of this to build the temple back up. It says, thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. So we wasn't being taunted no more. We was back. We had our temple again. We could keep our laws. It was a good time. We gonna get back to that good time again. So it said, moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel were ordaining that the days of dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days. So this is an 8-day feast. It says from the 25th day of the month Caslu with mirth and gladness, meaning this is supposed to be a good time. Don't be sad around this time. This is a good time. Well, instead of celebrating Christmas, that they gave you 1 day, we got 8 days to celebrate in the winter, our feast dedication. Let's go, we got one more verse. Let's go to 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, 1 through 8. So this is when they rededicated it back to, rededicated the temple. Good time. So we're going to start at verse 1. Second Maccabees. All right. Second Maccabees. No, not chapter 1. Chapter 10. Slow. There we go. All right. So 2 Maccabees chapter 10, verse 1. It said, now Maccabeus and his company, the Lord guided them, recovered the temple in the city. But the altars which the heathen had built in the open street, and also the chapels, they pulled down. And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar, and striking stones, they took fire out of them and offered a sacrifice after 2 years, and set forth incense and lights and showbread. The lights, you see the decorations we got, we set it up. Says when that was done, they fell flat down and besought the Lord that they might come no more into such troubles. But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, and that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations. So they was like, hoping that the Lord don't bring no more troubles like they had to see again. It says, now upon that same day, now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again. So it's just reiterating in 2 Maccabees that same thing that happened, we just read in 1 Maccabees. It says even the 5 and 20th day of the same month, which is Caslu. And they kept the 8 days with gladness, as in the Feast of the Tabernacles. So it's showing you here that it's supposed to be kept just like the Feast of Tabernacles. Because in the Feast of Tabernacles, that's a week-long feast also. The first day and the last day is a Sabbath. Meaning you come together, you convocate. You can cook on these specific days. But you're still supposed to be no working, no buying. No, we know we're in captivity, so you try to. We pray that the Lord have mercy on the ones that can't keep it due to work or whatnot. But according to how the tabernacles is kept, that's how we're supposed to keep it. We're supposed to treat the first of the 8 days like a Sabbath. So it says, remembering that not long before they had held the feast of the tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts. Therefore they bare branches and fair boughs and palms also, and sang psalms unto him that had given them good success in cleansing his place.
What is they bear branches? I've seen branches in some of the decorations.
So he's going into that tabernacles right here. The branches, well, remember the Feast of Tabernacles is also the Feast of Booths. That's where we do the camping and stuff. Where they were in the wilderness, they built the booths. It's just showing you that said they bear the branches, the fair boughs, the boughs of the trees and whatnot. They built up their little huts and little tabernacles that they dwelled in.
You can do it again for this feast?
Well, no, he was just showing
What they did?
He was just saying, remembering how they did that feast. But we keep it in a similar way, because in the wintertime, I mean, this is just like the Feast of Tabernacles just in the winter. But it's just showing you that, mainly it was just saying keep it 8 days, the first and the last day is a Sabbath. That's what he's really comparing, but he was just bringing up what they did on that day. And he said, they ordained also by a common statute and decree that every year those days should be kept of the whole nation of the Jews. Because according to the Bible, if anybody doesn't know by now, we are the real Jews. We are the biblical Jews. Jew is short for Judah. That was one of the tribes of Israel. And so the Jews, back in the Old Testament, it was consisted of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. When they said the Jews, they were really talking about the darker skin or the blacks of the children of Israel. But we got Hispanics, Native Americans also, which when we were split, we had the southern and northern kingdom. The southern kingdom was the tribes of Judah, and they were the Jews. But all of us consider, when we talk about Jews, we talk about Israel. So it says, and this was the end of Antiochus called Epiphany. So this was the end of him. Man. We got rid of this wicked. This man caused a lot of wickedness during this time. And we basically, Judas and his brethren, they avenged it. They took him out, and they rededicated the temple. This is why we keep this day. Verse 10. Last verse. I'm sorry. All right, so I was supposed to stop at 8. So anyway, y'all can see why we keep this feast. It's basically just going into us, how they took us out. They destroyed our temple. They had us doing all this wicked stuff. And we rededicated the temple after we defeated them in battle. This is an important day. So go back and read all of Maccabees. If you don't have an apocrypha already, go get one. This is very important history. Any other questions? All right, I want to say shalom to everybody that joined us, and thank you, and enjoy the rest of the feast.
I think